Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between Roxas Abver and Mouse Hasu here on Shakuras Plateau. Roxas Abver spawning on the south left hand side of the map as the purple Zerg player at what I'll call the 7 or 8 o'clock position. Meanwhile, we have Mouse Hasu spawning as the yellow Protoss over here on the bottom right hand side at what I'll call the 5 o'clock position here on Shakuras Plateau. So this is game 3 in this series. But proxy, yeah, okay. So yeah, they're just simply talking to each other, having a lot of fun, and yeah, just going for a crazy strategy there. I guess that hatchery needs to be built. If you haven't seen the jungle basin game, the hatchery cannot be built on the very bottom. Needs to be built up a little bit higher. Otherwise, your drones will get stuck, and then they cannot create any spine crawlers. So that was a little bit of an issue there. So bad luck. I think Hasu, that cheese would have actually been effective against Hasu if he had used it. So now we see how Hasu continue to just chrono boost as we also have Abver currently power droning. So this game is currently just underway, and a lot of them just continue to talk and having a lot of fun apparently. Game 3 in this, I believe, a best of 5 series, as obviously, or it could be best of 7. Yeah. Wow, getting a little bit tongue-tied. I guess it is a long day and a lot of casting going on today. So anyways, focus on the game. Hasu is currently warping in a gateway and also getting a simulator as we're getting a hatchery. So it is going to be an early hatchery coming in from Abver, trying to get a very strong economic lead. I do not expect to see that much more talking coming in from these two players any longer, as the game is underway and both of them need to focus on their macro and their micro in order to not fall behind in the long run. Overlord now able to fly in, able to see that there isn't a simulator here, and now we'll be looking for that cybernetic core. We see that there is a hatchery down over here as well. So with that hatchery down here, we also see a pylon block coming in from this one drone. The drone wants to make sure that this one probe does not warp in any pylons, and now wandering back and forth, this one probe still wandering around as it sees the cybernetics core being warped in and knows that most likely there is not going to be a forge denial anytime soon, or a pylon denial to that low ramp. We now see what drones making their way over here to try to go into that extractor and now get some additional gas, as that spawning pool will be up in just a moment and we should be getting that metabolic boost. Overlord now making their way across the map. Not quite sure where this Overlord really wants to go, as this hatchery will be done right now and we'll be able to start mining off of 16 mineral patches instead of 8, as Abver is nearly hitting the point of diminishing returns on his drones mining out at that main base. We now see a forge being placed down, so Hasu looking to do a long-term game here. Now, I misspoke momentarily when I said he will be able to mine off of 16 mineral patches. It is in fact 15 mineral patches, as Shakuras Plateau is one of those maps where your natural expansion, and most of the expansions in general, only have 7 mineral patches. The only exception is the very north and the very south expansions here and here, or the starting locations as well. Back over here, we now see another gateway currently being warped in. So Hasu currently setting up sentries and will be able to get a lot of sentries into an expansion attempt. As the sentries are heavier on gas, he will be able to save up enough minerals in order to start warping in that nexus, that key nexus there, as Hasu now moving around. I guess he's waiting for that an extra 100 minerals, and then we'll be able to warp in right there. So sentries now trying to position themselves so that there isn't, so that no units can really walk by, and now in comes Hasu's nexus. Overlord now making its way across the map. I believe Abver knows about, no, he does not know about that expansion just quite yet, and now in comes the Overlord. Overlord does see that there is an expansion there, but he does not know how well developed this front door already is. So a gateway and now a forge currently coming in as well. Back over here, we are upgrading the tier 2, so Abver not spending too much time in tier 1, going quickly into tier 2, as there is now a Stargate being built by Hasu. Hasu may try to go for Phoenixes or Void Rays. Both units are very viable, especially on Shakuras Plateau, as it is a large map with a lot of terrain to traverse. those air units getting able to fly over that terrain, benefiting their movement speed very much. And down goes one Zergling able to take down that probe. However, the probe unable to get back up that ramp just in time. And now this Overlord still sitting here will be able to start seeing when these mineral patches are starting to be mined. At some point, Abver should consider taking an additional expansion. As the Protoss player takes an expansion, he needs to make sure that he is one up on expansions. Otherwise, he will quickly fall behind in this economic game. What, Queen now over here continuing to spawn larva. Are we going to get a Spire? If we see a Spire, that is going to be a little bit of an issue, just because we already know we have a Void Stargate coming into play. So Mutalisks have a very difficult time against Phoenixes. Also, Mutalisks have a difficult time against Void Rays, as well as we are now going into a double Stargate build. So a double Stargate, or a two-star gate? No, you can't really say two-gate. A 2-gate build now, or 2 Stargate build now into mass Phoenixes. These Phoenixes currently being chrono boosted, and one thing to remember is that these Phoenixes are now going to be able to be produced much more quickly after patch 1.2. The Phoenixes will be able to come out very quickly, only 35 build seconds as opposed to 45, and it will be very easy for the Protoss to counter mass Mutalisks, as we are now getting the Groove Spines upgrade for those Hydralisks. So Hydralisks are going to become very important as well to try to fight back against these Phoenixes. The Phoenixes, however, once they get a decent number as well, they are able to deal a lot of damage, and in come those Phoenixes trying to go after those Overlords there. However, we do see some Hydralisks now coming in, and now in come these Hydralisks. Hydralisks going to start picking off some damage and able to deal a lot of damage there. Are we going to get a transfusion? Oh no transfusion. And for a moment, I was going to say, is the Queen going to take down his own Overlord to deny experience? But yeah, wrong game. We do have a lot of Hydralisks now being trained, and these Hydralisks attack very quickly and are now able to deal a lot of damage towards these destructible rocks, even dealing 9 damage per attack. And you can see how quickly these rocks are currently getting taken down. So mass Hydralisks now being placed on over here, and now some photon cannons being warped in along this backside in order to offer some additional protection, as we now have a Phoenix once again on the move. Phoenix is just looking around the map for just wandering Overlords and then shooting them out of the sky, buying himself very precious time. Taking a look at the economy, we now see that Abver does have a slight economic lead, 50 harvesters compared to 38, and now 1,300 minerals versus 1,100, but there is also about 121 gas difference, as Hasu is not mining off of this gas right now. In come more Phoenixes. Phoenixes, however, unable to get any real damage dealt, as those Phoenixes are getting shooed away by those Hydralisks and those Queens. Phoenixes having a relatively short range, and now these Hydralisks are going to perhaps come into here and try to deal damage towards these destructible rocks. So these rocks are now getting taken down. We do see some Phoenixes now trying to come in as well. Hydralisks are going to come back in over here and now get some damage in. Once again, one Hydralisk quickly getting picked apart. Second Hydralisk, are we going to get a third? Oh no hat trick there, as we are now getting a force field there. So the Hydralisk now trying to attack up onto that high ground, able to deal a lot of damage, and now perhaps continue to shoot up once again, as there are Queens as well. So those Queens are going to be able to, unable to walk through, as there is now sentries just dropping force fields, and with no Ultralisks, unable to break that. We now see a lot of those Phoenixes trying to come in, trying to deal damage. No ventral stacks whatsoever. No real way to get up onto that high ground, as those sentries are just going to be able to chain force field into this location here. Perhaps another creep tumor will be able to be placed up perhaps into this location here. And now you can see more creep tumors just trying to be built, as those Phoenixes trying to test the waters once again. And now those sentries are going to have a very dangerous time walking up. If these Hydralisks do in fact make it up that ramp, it's going to be very difficult, as another force field could quickly be laid down, and then splitting this army, this large army of Hydralisks, into 2 smaller armies, especially with Colossus and Photon Cannon support. Are these sentries just... Sentries are now once again trying to deny any creep tumors from being able to make it up that ramp. And now it does not look like this back ramp will be successful at all. One force field holding off that relatively large army there. So down it goes, and now Hasu getting a little bit more breathing room, as Abver now taking 2 additional bases at the same time will be able to mine out even much more quickly. We do see Phoenix is now trying to quickly come in, dealing a lot of damage across those drones and across those Queens, and now will quickly also come across the expansions over here to the north. See drones now doing some long distance mining as well. Now gonna graviton beam up and serve them up. And as those Hydras trying to get back underneath in order to deal more damage once again. Hydralisk now sitting over here. Hydralisk do not have creep over here, so they're going to be moving relatively slowly as more drones are getting picked off once again. Spore crawlers now being placed down. Queens now trying to make their way over, but drones just getting picked apart left and right. Phoenixes do not have any weapons upgrade as we are now getting more and more Colossus, and this is going to be very difficult. If Abver doesn't train up Hydralisk, he will quickly find that he is facing up against a very large number of Phoenixes, and now in come Corruptors instead. So a Corruptor now trying to fight back, and now that Corruptor fighting back against those Phoenixes, the Corruptor unable to get enough damage dealt onto that one Phoenix. The Corruptor does have a decent amount of armor, and the Hydra is able to pick apart one or shoot down one of those Phoenixes. Back over here, we now see Sentries and Colossus on the move, and they may be able to get a lot of damage out. We do see a couple Corruptors here. The Corruptors, a very strong counter towards those Colossus and towards those Phoenixes as well, as those Phoenixes now just be able to pick apart that last Corruptor there, even though it does have a lot of armor. And now 22 Hydralisks against 2 Colossus. Extended thermal lance range not yet researched, as it has just been started, and now more sentries now coming in as well. So Colossus just coming in, swiping apart at all of these drones. Hydralisk now trying to come in as well. Hydralisk going to have to find themselves in a very bad situation as multiple force fields coming in. Hydralisk being forced to walk all the way around in order to be able to engage here. However, the Colossus have been taken down. A fresh new Colossus coming in, and then massive force fields, a wall of force fields not able to be taken down, as a probe also coming in as well. And now in comes another force field. So Shakuras Plateau really favoring this style of play, this force field play coming in from Hasu. So Hasu doing a great job just containing Abver. Abver, however, expanding off to the north side, and now if he's able to get both of these places up and running, he should have a very strong economic lead, as these Hydralisks are once again on the move. Production wise, we see Corruptor still being trained, level 1 weapons upgrade nearing completion, and we are also getting the ventral sacks for the ability to be able to drop units. Back over here, we see a large number of Phoenixes in the air, perhaps trying to deal damage, but there are no drones, and there is one Spore Crawler here, so that Spore Crawler able to shoo away and deal some damage back towards those Phoenixes. Phoenixes do not want to engage, do not want to fight, as these Phoenixes now pulling off. Back over here, we do see one Overlord, as Hasu takes up another base as well. The expansion is protected by 5 photon cannons, only 1 pylon, so the pylon is the weakest link there. As the probes now being transferred off to the north, Roaches do have that movement speed upgrade. Gonna try to run up that ramp. Gonna quickly find themselves on the wrong end of that photon cannon and taking a lot of damage there. We now see a lot of Corruptors in the air. Are the Corruptors gonna be able to deal any damage towards those Phoenixes? The Corruptors do have a larger range and almost able to deal another round of attack. However, Corruptors have relatively slow attack speed, 1.9. So that is a little bit faster than a Roach, but serious and a little bit faster than a Viking, but nowhere near as fast as the speed of a Phoenix. I'll take this time, as my voice is starting to get a little bit harsh, take a little break. Stay tuned for part 2 of this replay between Mouse Hasu and Abver here on Shakuras Plateau.